in the brand new series called GMCC Leaders Series. And the idea behind it is it's quite simple. Every fortnight, we're going to invite a leader from somewhere across Greater Manchester. It could be a local political leader or a business leader to come and have a chat and answer some questions about themselves, the role they have, and the wider context around Greater Manchester, and also what makes the city region tick. We are recording these. We're publishing them on the Chamber's YouTube channel and releasing them as a podcast. And to kick things off, our guest today is someone I've had the very real pleasure of working with and closely for several years now, and who's a wealth of business experience, as well as a great overview of the Chamber itself in his current role as Greater Manchester Chamber President. So I'd like to give a warm welcome to Robin Phillips. Robin, good morning.
Morning, Chris. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all well.
That's fantastic. It's great to see you, and thank you so much for giving up your time this morning. It should be good, and I'm really looking forward to it. So just before we start, obviously I've mentioned you are the Chamber President, but your day job, your role at Siemens, if you could just explain a little bit about that.
I've got a few day jobs at Siemens actually, but my main one is heading up what's known as Siemens Advanta Consulting in the UK. Now, Siemens Advanta Consulting is a consultancy within Siemens, kind of supporting Siemens both internally, but then also supporting Siemens customers externally. I'm also the site director of the site on Princess Road in Manchester, and also externally from Siemens, I'm also a board of governors at the University of Manchester.
So plenty to keep you busy.
So I've got no hair, Chris.
How long have you actually been at Siemens, Robin?
Yeah, I've been on and off for it's coming up 36 years actually. So I started back in 1985, did about 4 years with them, then went away for a year and a half and worked with the competition, and then came back to Siemens and have been with Siemens ever since. So yeah, so technically, well, I think I've just had my 31st official anniversary, but it's actually technically about 36 years I think it is at the end of this year.
Excellent stuff. And I know you have spent some time over in Germany as well.
Yeah, I did three years out in Germany working in the headquarter, and from there used that as a base to travel all around the world in business development activities, which was great actually. It was a fantastic opportunity. And I always say to people, if they get the chance to get into an organization like ours and want to see the world, then yeah, Siemens is a great company to do that with.
Superb, excellent stuff. And obviously another addition to that, which is already quite a comprehensive list of jobs and responsibilities, is obviously your role as Chamber President.
Yeah.
What does that actually entail for obviously people joining us today that aren't quite sure what the Chamber President does? They've probably heard about it and heard of you, but not quite sure what that role actually entails.
That's quite a good question, that's actually, Chris, because when I started, I think I was just about 5 months into it, and obviously then COVID hit. So it's been quite an interesting time to be a president of the chamber, I should say. But I mean, in terms of things I get involved in, I suppose ultimately I'm the ultimate voice of the membership within the chamber itself. So I get involved in things like the policy and campaigns activities, and sit on the committee working with the team to identify directions of policy and help and put ideas into campaigns. I also chair, some of you who will have been through the assemblies, I chair the assemblies, so the spring, summer, autumn and winter assemblies, which clearly pre-COVID were all face-to-face activities in Elliott House. But since COVID, we've been doing those, experimenting with the technology and doing those online and virtual. And I think it's been really quite interesting to see how that's been received and that's been attended. It's been really great and refreshing to see people getting involved with the technology and participating in the assemblies in that way. But we're looking forward very much to getting back to maybe first through a hybrid version and then through a face-to-face version in the very near future.
Absolutely. I mean, COVID's obviously had a huge impact right across the place. And like you said, it's impacted especially on your term as president.
Yeah.
Just looking back to your sort of job at Siemens or whatever, what impact has COVID had on that and how the company operates?
Yeah, I mean, for an organisation like Siemens, it's been quite significant actually. So we were tracking the COVID situation because we've got quite a large footprint of activities in China. So we were tracking the activities right from its start actually. So, and that turned into a massive global program. So for example, people from my group, the Advanta Consulting Group, led the Siemens project, if you like, as to how Siemens was going to deal with the COVID crisis as it moved around the world. So that was a major activity. But in terms of operational stuff, it's been I think it's been mixed actually. I think in terms of some of the highs, and we kind of alluded to it just earlier, just now with regard to the assembly, I think it's shown how adaptable we are, and it's brought out real ingenuity out of the teams. It's what's been really interesting is the way actually virtual networking, how quick that can be and how speedy that can be actually to get networks going. And also, reflecting on some of the activities we've done, some of the kind of conferencing type things we've done, which actually where we've been constrained by physical constraints in the past in terms of premises and stuff. I think we've been able to do much larger scale stuff. So I think on the plus side, those are adaptability, ingenuity, and networking and scaling. Lows, I think really my job was an international job up until the COVID hit, and in fact my last public event was with the team actually in Manchester at a Stereophonics concert actually, but we won't go into detail there. But the week before that, I'd been in Australia, with our activities in Australia, and that literally was the last time I flew on business. So that kind of distance from my team, because a lot of my team is actually in Germany, so that lack of travel. Missing the ad hoc nature of the coffee machine chat or the water tower moment or whatever you want to call it. In fact, I was in the office yesterday and I had such a moment where I bumped into somebody and it's led to an activity. So it just shows you the power of that, getting physically together, just having a conversation on the off chance with somebody and it leads to something. I think that's probably the one of the other lows. And then also, clearly, on organizations, people within organizations, everybody's in a different, it's been different for everybody, and it's trying to make sure that everybody is okay and has been checked in with, and so there's been a lot of focus on mental well-being and checking in with people, which was a challenge, and there were some things to deal with, but at the end of the day it's a positive, because I think it's brought everybody a lot closer together actually.
Yeah, really good answer, and very interesting as well. And just thinking back to pre-pandemic, it seems an awful long time ago.
Yeah,
I was saying something yesterday, you can do something 18 months ago and it feels like yesterday. You can do something yesterday,
yeah,
it feels like 18 months ago. It's
absolutely.
a really strange sort of
absolutely
time slip we're in really with that. just picking up on that, and obviously I just want to ask about your views on the sort of wider sort of business context and performance and things, not just in Siemens but across Greater Manchester really. And we've seen some signs through the Chamber's Quarter Economic Survey of a bit of a bounce back coming from COVID. What's your perception at present over where business is, and are we seeing that a real genuine bounce back from COVID, or are other things lurking somewhere that may just derail that?
Yeah, I think at the moment, definitely. I think there's definitely, you can see and feel the bounce back. You can see it. Just where you're located in the centre of Manchester, you'll be seeing it daily. It's the same in the towns and villages around Greater Manchester. You can see that it's almost in that respect, in terms of people getting out and about and doing stuff and going to bars and pubs and stuff like that. It's back to normal really, or seems to be back to normal. And so that's kind of the observational comment I'd make. I think in terms of business, I think the same. I think we're seeing, if I see again, I was in the office yesterday. I think we're probably up to about on a daily basis now, up to probably around about 50% people back in the office now, 15, maybe slightly higher now, which is great. And with the sales organization, sales teams are out and about visiting customers, and they're back into places that were not allowing people in, so, and we were the same because we were a manufacturer in the UK, so we were very, very conscious about keeping the all the employees in the factories all safe as well. So, so I think when we're opening our our doors as well for people to come in. So I think, yes, I think that's definitely different now and pleasing. I think in terms of sectors, I think there are some structural changes taking place, or have taken place, or are in process of taking place. I'm thinking there specifically around sectors like food and beverage, which have in the past significantly depended on labour from Europe and cheap labour from Europe. So a combination of Brexit and COVID, I think, has compounded the source of labour within in sectors like food and beverage. And so I think we're seeing a structural change where those companies are now having to invest in automation to fill the gap, and that will mean that those jobs ultimately will either disappear or change significantly. So I think there is a structural change going in some of the labor activities around sectors that have been used to that supply of cheaper labor from Europe, and then also, you know, around the other thing around contingency for COVID, you know, operating at safe distance for that workforce that they have, making sure that they can be flexible enough in the future if there are future pandemics to have that flexibility to operate at safe distances, means again more automation. So we're actually seeing a great deal of demand for automation technology products going into sectors and manufacturing. So I think there is at the back of all of this a structural change.
I'm just going to say it's almost like I used the phrase I think last year, it's almost like there's been another sort of mini industrial revolution in parts of the economy that's come out of that. Can you see that carrying on excuse me, in the pace of change continuing over the next 12 months? Or do you think you'll eventually see this sort of settling back down again to where we were, or has the link been broken to the past almost, as it were?
I don't think the link's been broken. I think we're going to see a metamorphosis, if you like. So I think, you know, that structural change is taking place in certain sectors, kind of countering all of that. I think we're seeing, and we're going to see more and more of this over the next 12 months. I'm pretty certain. I think we're going to see more and more onshoring of manufacturing. So I'm thinking all manufacturers have been absolutely, you know, the curveballs that were coming at them with regard to COVID, with Brexit, and then ultimately, you know, the Suez Canal blockage. I think that's been a real wake-up call for organizations to revisit their enterprise supply chains. And I think we're going to be seeing more and more reshoring of activities coming into the UK. So that'll kind of offset some of that kind of job loss that I was, not job loss, but job change that I was talking about just earlier. So I think, you know, we're seeing that. I think there's going to be probably sectors, and talk about the Northwest, I think textiles, I think that's the one already starting. We were starting to see some of that, you know, going back a couple of years, whereas textile manufacturing and production were coming back onto UK soil. I think automotive, and bearing in mind that automotive is going through a huge transition anyway from the internal combustion engine to electric vehicles. And anybody in that supply chain, there's lots of small to medium-sized enterprises in the supply chain of automotive, as we know, you know, they're going to have to they'll be going through, while we're going through COVID, Brexit, all these they're going through the transition of how can we survive now? We've been supplying technology into internal combustion engines. We now need to be thinking about what's our role now in this EV world. So I think automotive is going to go through a lot of that kind of transition and kind of reshoring of skills and manufacturing. And pharmaceuticals, I think, is another one. I think we've realized, I think the nation has realized through COVID that, you know, nations become competitive about vaccines. So I think that everything to do with keeping a nation fed, keeping a nation well, and keeping a nation running, I think we're going to see more and more of that kind of stuff coming back onto the shores of Great Britain.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We'll come back in 12 months and see if it's see if it's happened. Hopefully, I mean, it's interesting there, because the next bit I just want to sort of touch on really is pulling that together, and what happens when we elect a president at the chamber. We get them to come up with a particular campaign theme, and Robin's campaign theme was connectivity and innovation for growth. And I think some of the stuff you've already said there is showing that innovation bit and all the rest of it. connectivity and innovation for growth is a really key issue, isn't it? And it's very important for you and something you firmly, fully get behind, and that's why it's your campaign team. Why is it such a major issue for you, Robin? What's the sort of driving force behind that, and what does that actually look like in real life? Because people sometimes have all sorts of interpretations of both those words, don't they? Connectivity and innovation. What does that look like for you in real life?
Well, ultimately, it's about collaboration, and I think this kind of collaboration thing. I tried to encapsulate collaboration. What can encourage collaboration? Well, connectivity can encourage collaboration. It's bringing people together to talk, a bit like I just talked about the coffee machine moment. It's that getting together, sparking a conversation, something happens. Through that conversation, innovation happens and something changes. So that's kind of why, and I think there's a tendency in all walks of life, and because we're a very tribal race, aren't we? We're a very tribal group. Wherever we are, it's tribal. So, but there's bigger tribes out there, and if we want to compete with those bigger tribes, the smaller tribes need to work together. So that's why. And in Manchester, I think we've got such great things within Manchester that can help to facilitate innovation and facilitate growth. But I don't mean growth for the sake of growth and driving GDP and all the problems that brings down the line. It's more growth in terms of skills. It's growth in terms of community. It's growing together to be better. And I think that's really what I'm striving for. And I think we've got, when you look at the universities, the three main universities that we've got in Greater Manchester, they traditionally compete. We're now seeing them collaborating more and more together, which I think is fantastic. And I think if we can get that collaboration, the skill set that's in the universities, matched with the demand and potential skill set also that's within and nuggets that are within the SME community, I think that's really, really powerful. So what I would like to see in practical terms is things happening such as groups of SMEs just going into universities, into the sandpits, into Print City, for example, in Manchester Metropolitan University, into the Cyber Foundry, and the Chamber Act as a catalyst for making that happen, to get this dialogue going, because that's a dialogue. It's a dialogue that actually makes the innovation happen, that makes people think, well, I can use that, or I've got this great idea. Why do you look at that? And I think it's that that collaborative spirit, that collaborative ethos that I think for the region, but then also for the nation, I think we need to be building on, because there is already a great platform of collaboration within Manchester. I think we just need to accelerate it.
Excellent, thanks for that. That's good. And just picking up on that point around Greater Manchester, and what in your view makes it such a unique place? Because you know as well as I do, you travel in other places, either in this country or further afield, and Manchester has always had this sort of aura around it. People say, "Oh yeah, well, this is where things get done," and blah blah blah, the rest of it. What in your minds? Why is that? What's unique about it? I mean, Siemens has been part of Manchester for I don't know how many years.
Yeah, 1840s.
Absolutely. So why is that? Do you think? What makes Greater Manchester tick?
I think the thing about Greater, it does tick. I think it absolutely does tick. Things, there's a kind of can-do, will-do attitude within Manchester, and it's part. I mean, people talk flippantly about the DNA, but when you look at the history of Manchester, when you look at the things that have actually started in Manchester, well, the Industrial Revolution starts in Manchester. Let's not kid ourselves. But then, you look at some of the human rights things that have happened in Manchester with the suffragettes, Emily Pankhurst, and then you look at the bunch of industrialists in Manchester weren't too pleased about the taxing that the Liverpool ports were doing. So I thought, well, let's build ourselves a straight line to the sea and build the ship canal. So I think there's always been this kind of this can-do attitude, will-do attitude, must-do attitude, and pulling people together. Coming back to that collaboration piece, pulling people together to get things done. And I think we've been really blessed over the last 25 years or so to have a city leadership in the form of Sir Howard Bernstein and Sir Richard Lees and their teams that's really engendered this kind of unique approach actually to public-private partnership. And I think that's really led the way, and there's been this kind of beacon of how things can work. And when you bear in mind, that partnership, that public-private partnership, and that city leadership in Manchester has run through multiple governments of multiple political persuasions and colours, but they've always maintained that good relationship, and they've maintained that good relationship for the good of the city and the citizens of the city. So I think I think that's what makes Manchester tick. They're collaborative. They've got a good platform of collaboration between private-public partnership. They've got a good reputation, and they've got momentum. It's a momentum that just kind of keeps going. And I think, again, the Chamber plays a big role in that as well.
Excellent. Good answer. I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball in now.
Oh, no.
Here's one that the government's struggling to answer a question. So hopefully you may have your own views. We hear a lot, don't we, about levelling up. It's become the sort of buzz phrase of a lot of things with government. And obviously in 2019, the Conservatives were elected, and Boris Johnson at the time said, yes, we'll level up the country. And obviously with COVID and one thing or other in between, but here we are nearly 2 years later, and we're still waiting for some sort of idea about what does it mean. What's your view on levelling up? What does it mean to you, and what and how do you think government could actually deliver it? Is it possible to level up the country, or is it just unfortunately going to be another buzz phrase that's consigned to political history?
Well, I think first of all, it kind of means different things to different people, doesn't it? I think, and levelling up for Boris means probably from where he sits, drinking his port and all that kind of stuff. It probably means something different to what it means to us. But I think to me, it's about balancing up the life. Balancing up. I'm saying there's the upward. I think the whole thing is, as long as everybody's raising up, and it's not so if you can balance up while everybody's growing, I think that's for me that's a key point. But to me, it's really about when I think about it, it's about balancing up the life outcomes for people within the north of the country, and specifically a bit parochial, the northwest. So I think there's a national balancing up needs to be done, for that for our region in relation to the so-called affluent south, and the bad areas in south as well, when you look into the detail. And that was going to be my next point is, we have got disparity of outcomes and people's lives within the 10 boroughs of Greater Manchester. So not only is there a national levelling up needs to be done, but there has to be very much a regional levelling up done within the boroughs of Greater Manchester. So I think what can the government do? I think in terms of support, I think the best support in the short term would be to support the Greater Manchester region in its quest to balance up outcomes and life conditions within Greater Manchester. I think if that can be done, that serves two purposes. It serves a regional levelling up agenda, but then also serves the national levelling up agenda. So I think anything that can be done to do that, because when you look at life expectancy, you'd be staggered with staggering facts about the life expectancy differentials between boroughs in Greater Manchester. Just in this day and age, those should not exist. 5 year differentials in people's life expectancy, whether you live north of Manchester or south of Manchester, it's just can't be. So, and in addressing those local issues, I think then that would then also see the government would then say, well, actually, responsible city like region like Manchester is doing some good with this money. Let's do that in other places. And I'm not saying they should do Manchester in isolation. By the way, I think there's other regions that need as much help as we do.
Yeah, thanks for that. And like I said, it's a very tricky one to answer that. Somebody asked me, I thought levelling up was.
Could you tell?
I didn't. I was struggling a little bit. It is one of those though that does make sense, doesn't it? If you think about it, you think, well, why wouldn't you do it? But then when you try and express it in words, it does become quite tricky. But
But I think that somebody was telling me on the meeting this weekend down in Chequers or somewhere to try and define what it really means. So
yeah, so good luck. good luck to them on that one. Robin, I'm just conscious of time. We've just got a few minutes left now, and obviously just want to bring it back now to your role as Chamber President. Really speak a little bit about the Chamber. What in your view is the best thing about Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce?
Well, obviously the people, Chris.
Thank you.
No, but I really mean that. It really is the first thing that hit me as I walked in up the stairs into Elliott House. First of all, I love the building, I love the place, and walking up and into that vibrant space of creativity and energy. It was just, it was palpable. I really felt the energy of the place. So, and I think also, for me, it really is. And I say this all the time. It's a true voice of business. And I think through COVID, the recent conversations that we've had, it's clear to me that, not only is it a true voice of business, but it's the true friend of business. And I think with nearly 5,000 member companies, that 5,000 member companies nearly, that's a significant part of the working population of the Northwest. And you think that's and all the dependencies of those working people, and it's a significant chunk of the population of Greater Manchester is being supported by the Chamber as being as a friend of business and a friend of the families ultimately. So I think I think that's and it's a neutrality as well. It's a neutral voice of business, because it's reflecting the voice of business.
Yeah, and obviously it's a bit of a no-brainer, but what would you say to somebody if they were sat in front of you now and saying, well, why should I join the Chamber? What would your answer be to that?
Oh, I'd say, it's a great support network. That's what I do say to people. So it's a great source of support for your business. It is that voice of business, and with more voices like you and with your company, more voices means bigger volume, means more influence on things that can get done if they need to get done. And again, in terms of the friendship, but you join your family of friends, a group of friends that are all got the same interests at heart, which is business, and more friends means more support. So you're building a network of support, and all of that means more energy. So that's kind of what I'd say to people and I do say to people who I'm cajoling to join the Chamber.
Super, thanks. And what does it mean to you to be president?
Oh, it's pride, Chris. Actually, so it's. As I say, I find it energizing coming into Elliott House and events like this. I find them truly energizing. It's pride. I've got pride in the Chamber and its people and what it does, and I'm proud to be given the honour of this role for the time that I've got it. And it also means legacy, actually. So my family roots are firmly rooted in Manchester and Salford on my great-grandfathers. Both my great-grandfathers, one was my paternal side is a pattern maker at Mather and Platts, and on my maternal side he was a carter living with 8 kids at East Ordsall Lane in Salford. So so I feel that I've kind of inherited a bit of a legacy on their behalf here. And also, I'd like to hopefully leave a little bit of a legacy behind me in terms of having done something positive when, after my stint as president finishes in 2022.
So no pressure there then for the from the ancestors or anything like that.
Just an obligation.
Yeah, and I think that sort of sense of pride, and also I think a little bit around the sort of the legacy bit and the history of it all as well is something we sometimes forget. Maybe we've been around 220, nearly 230 years as a sort of organisation or whatever. So
you're actually older than Siemens.
Oh, well, there you go.
I don't come across the Chamber's actually older than Siemens. I don't come across many organisations that are older than Siemens. But
I thought you meant me personally then, Robin. I just feel it some days. But anyway, just one final thing. And again, this is a series of events, and our next guest on the Leaders series in 2 weeks' time is Tom Stannard, who's the chief
Oh, yeah.
exec of Salford City Council. What I want to do is sort of get a chain of questions going from previous guests to the next guest. So, if there was one thing you'd wanted to ask Tom as chief exec of a major, a bustling city council like that, what would it be, Robin? And I'll get that question into him.
Right. Okay. Well, I'd probably pick up with him on the topic of collaboration, actually, because, like you say, he's a major. He's a city mayor in a group of 10 boroughs in Greater Manchester Combined Authority. So yeah, so I would where I see, and we all see certain levels of competition, friendly and sometimes not so friendly competition. So I would ask him something along the lines of Tom, how do you see your role in turning the competition within Greater Manchester into more collaboration for the good of the region and its citizens?
Right. I've made a note of that, and I'll make sure I ask him, and I'll get him to ask our next guest after that. So we'll keep that chain going. So that could be quite.
I'll probably put an addendum to that, Chris, as well, saying how can we as the chamber support him in that?
Yeah. Okay. I'll ask him that as well. Two for the price of one.
Exactly.
Robin, we've just crept over, but thank you so much for your time. You're a tremendously busy person, but you've always made time for stuff like this, the chamber, and also more importantly, its members as well. And again, it's important we don't forget, that within everything else we've been talking about today. So thank you so much for that, and thank you for answering the questions in a very open and honest way as well. It's absolutely superb. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Just on 31 minutes. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. As I said, we've got a second one in the series coming up on the 23rd of November, same time, 9 o'clock till 9:30. When, like I said, we'll have Tom Stannard, who's the chief exec of Salford City Council, and we'll get his views from the public sector side of things, and I'll make sure we ask Robin's question around competition, turning it into collaboration. So thank you all so much for that. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks once again.
Thank you. Bye.